All right, we are actually live right now in a haphazard way. So, Alex, this is actually Synth Summit episode 30, which is kind of a big deal because that's like sort of over the hill now.
Yeah,
I
cool.
I don't do these Synth Summit shows regularly like we do the Beat People podcast and some of the other podcasts. This show is usually more reserved for really getting to talk to engineers and product creators and just people that I think are interesting and that are going to have an interesting topic that we want to dive more specifically into. Okay, and that's where you come in. So you have a company called Twisted Electrons, and people are kind of still just starting to file into the stream. So I'm going to kind of stretch this out a little bit. But what I wanted to touch on. Twisted Electrons, how many people are involved in this company right now? Is this like a one-man operation, or are you is it a few of you? What's the deal?
There's me, and there's I also get a lot of help from my cat.
Well, that's
Yeah, sometimes I need to test the quality of the finish, so a good cat scratch will be a great way of testing resistance, solidity.
I don't know what the labor laws are on employing cats.
Well, it's kind of it's a rolling pay grade.
Well,
can,
where are you? So where are you based out of first?
Nice. Well, just above Nice, a place called Castagnier, which is 20 minutes north of Nice, in the south of France.
Excellent. So, Twisted Electrons, you guys make some pretty interesting products. What we're gonna start off with here is I want to kind of get a foundation of what Twisted Electrons is. What's kind of like the mission statement? What's like the idea behind Twisted Electrons to begin with?
Well, I've kind of found this niche of giving a new purpose to these chips that have been put out to create sounds that sound really good, I think, and that just don't have any purpose in life anymore because they haven't been manufactured for 30 years or, depending on the chip. And really, it stemmed from me not really being smart enough to design an oscillator. So that's how it all started. I mean, like the AY3 is a chip that you can just throw some code at, and it sounds really cool. And it's quite basic. It's only got, I don't know how many instructions, like 20 odd instructions or something maybe, but there's just getting a load of cool things out of rudimentary technology, really.
So I'm actually trying to I think I might be having some minor internet issues at the moment. Let me see what's going on here. And we've got somebody on Facebook talking in French, which makes me feel completely stupid because I'm monolingual. So.
Salut. I'm not actually French. I would like to be French, but I'm British. But I've been living in France since the early 90s, 91. So, tu peux me considérer comme français. You can consider me a French guy.
So here's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to start this off this way. Let's grab this video or this screen right here. So I'm going to share this and show people. So this is your website, and which, okay, yeah, you've got stuff that you can buy right up front. But the reason why I'm bringing... Yeah, go buy this stuff.
You can sign up a newsletter to buy stuff too.
The reason why I'm bringing this up, though, is because I wanted to show, I mean, you have quite a few products up here. It's not like it's just, one or two products. I mean, you've got quite a bit of products up here. When did you get started with this? What was really the first actual year of business, I should say?
I think it was 5 years ago. 2013. It wasn't like a day one I decided to do it. I kind of ramped into it. First I was making them for fun, then I was selling a few on eBay, and then it just sort of became a full-time thing. But operating as Twisted Electrons has been 5 years, I think.
And what was the first product that you guys had?
It's the AY3, which is back on page 1, a little desktop chiptune kind of synthesizer.
I think it might be on page 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
here we
Second
are.
one, yeah.
So we'll bring this thing up, and let's just kind of talk a little bit about what this was and how you managed to create this. Did they all kind of look like this from the gate? And the reason why I bring that up is a lot of like these kind of DIY companies like this tend to not look that great, to be honest with you. And these are all pretty slick looking. You do all the hardware design and UI and all that.
Yeah, it's actually come a long way. If you there's a Mark 1 which was completely handmade, with bending plastic that I'd cut out on a cheap Chinese laser cutter, and then hand painted. So this is a jump forward from the first iteration of the AY3. This is the Mark 2. But yeah, I do everything. I get some help with the electronic theory behind the circuits, just to make sure there's nothing completely wild going on. I've got some good friends that give me support. But actually, you mentioned the design thing. I tend to start off with how it's going to look before I go into the UI and the features.
Yeah. So essentially, what I gather from most of these products though is that they all kind of center around like you get a cool chip, and then you're like, oh, what can I do with this chip? How did that whole before it was a business, how did that interest start?
So it started with MIDI controllers. That my first dabble with electronics was in 2003, I think, making MIDI boxes. I don't know if you heard of the MIDI box platform. It's a DIY-friendly platform for making anything that will control MIDI. And they had a SID project there too, so that you could build little MIDI controllers for Tractor or whatever. I sent you a photo of the first one I did, I think, in 2003. On Facebook. It was like something I made out of an old mixer. Yeah, that's it. That's the control deck is bits of VCR, I think, the transport buttons. But they also, they had a SID core, which would enable you to make a SID synthesizer. So it's actually a really good one. So that's how I encountered the chip. Then I kind of went in my own direction using Arduino-based stuff. I wanted like a more classical approach with more knobs and stuff, and that's what the SID one, the Therapsid, came from.
Let me see if I can show this thing here. So you were telling me that this one was made out of Bondo?
Yes, yeah, that's a Oxygenate MIDI controller, and then I mounted the MIDI box SID into it with a load of Bondo, lots of sanding, and
That's pretty genius, though. Like, I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I can see how it's rough around the edges, but, like, that's better than what I would have done.
Sadly, a couple of weeks after making it, I dropped it, it cracked.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those moments that, you just wish to take back.
It was very heavy, yeah.
Oh, I imagine, man. That's pretty wild, though. And then we've got this guy. What was this one?
So it's also a SID synthesizer where you could, the idea was to patch connections, like they had LFOs and things, and you could. It was just making a digital connection internally, pretend. But that one wasn't so great because the knobs are too close together, and it turns out you can't use it at all.
Well, these are the kind of things that, like, you can kind of cut your teeth as far as UI design, so that when you do get to a point where you want to sell products, you're like, oh, well, I won't be making those mistakes anymore.
Exactly. Well, that was 15 years ago, I think, some of that one. So I don't know. My scale of time might be about out of whack.
You have you do actually have another SID-based synthesizer, the Therapsid.
Yep.
And you got to tell me a little bit about that, because I'm actually a little bit upset right now, because I actually just sold my personal. I had a SID guts, and I had taken the SID chip from my Commodore 64 that I grew up with. I took that out and I cut the filter caps out as well, and I put it all into that module. And I just sold it the other day, and I was like, a large part of me was like, man, as soon as you sell this, you're gonna regret selling it. but I ended up selling it. This thing is like an all-in-one desktop unit. You get access to all 3 voices on it.
Yeah, it's got all the voices are top rows here, and then you got sort of 3 LFOs to modulate any knob you like. So you can just associate a knob to the LFO by clicking the chain button. It's actually the same principle as the Mega FM for linking things to LFOs. But yeah, I wanted to take a really sort of classic approach where each function has a dedicated knob, and the Mark 1 was a little different and definitely not so nice looking, because it was made out of plexiglass, acrylic cut out of laser printer and then hand sprayed. But I was doing it all in house and having fun doing it. But
what were some of the challenges that kind of exposed themselves when you were kind of creating these types of boxes and learning how to interface with these chips and put them into a product like that?
I think earlier on I found myself to be a little bit ambitious with the features, how much it takes some time to figure out, especially as when you're beginning with the coding. You're not so good at optimizing stuff, so you can tend to expect more than it's beginning at managing the expectations, really. So I could I'm sorry to interrupt. I had my kid like banging on the door, and I had to figure out what was going on there. Sorry about that. So you were fairly ambitious with these projects, but what's your actual background though? Like how did you learn to kind of start manipulating these circuits and whatnot? That's the thing. I'm self-taught, so I was supposed to study it at school, but I studied the beach instead because we were very close to the beach, and I'd sit on the beach instead of going to school. So really, it all sort of teach yourself the stuff you need to learn as you go along.
It's hard to argue with that kind of thinking. I'm a big fan of like living life, so especially when you're young. Youth is fleeting. So the how do you pronounce it again? Therapsid?
Therapsid. It's a dinosaur, or it's a class of dinosaur. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a word with Sid in it. And dinosaurs are cool.
So you have that. The Acid 8 was like a little. You have a micro Acid 8 actually. That's the one that I wanted to bring up. So and that thing's it's like a little PCB type thing, right?
Yep.
Hold on, let me share this thing again. I'm trying to bring this stuff up. So this begs the question for me is, what about like DIY and stuff? Do you ever think about like doing DIY projects for people to build themselves?
I did dabble with that, and I would be interested in trying again. The thing is, that Acid 8, the small one, is the least DIY friendly thing you can possibly make. I mean, I can pretty much make any of the synths I do assemble most of my stuff. Those are the only things I couldn't because the components are so small.
Oh, it's all SMD on the back?
Yeah, absolutely. Because behind there's an ARM chip that's the size of a thumbnail, and it's got lots of legs. I think it's got at least 3 legs, maybe 30 legs. I don't know. But that also has all the components that go around it. There's quite a lot going on to handle the clock input, the USB, and yeah, I would love to be able to put it out as something to make, but tricky. Maybe a big version.
So this one has a VST that goes along with it. Did you also code the VST?
Well, I'm using Controller, which is a drag and drop kind of platform for making VSTs. It's really cool. Like CTRLR, I think.
I don't think I've actually looked at that. I got to check that out. That's pretty cool.
It's for making librarians, like UIs for programming your patches and stuff. really cool, and it can export a VST.
That's pretty cool. I have to check that out. I have honestly not looked at that at all. All right, so we're gonna start rolling into some of the big boys here, okay? Because I'm kind of chomping at the bit to get to this guy over here, but before I do that, I want to talk about Detonate, because that's fairly recent for you as well. Like that didn't come out all that long ago, did it?
No.
So you're just like kind of pounding away at things, like you're not really resting.
I don't sleep much. Yeah, I like Detonate. It's cool. I got one of those.
So can you explain to me about this thing? What is it? Like, tell us a little bit about Detonate, because this thing, it's pretty darn interesting.
It's 8-bit drum synthesizer, but it's based on samples. And the mission for me was how many samples can I cram into 64 kilobytes of flash, and how crazy can I go with it? So it's a STM32 ARM chip, and just using every available byte of memory and putting as many functions in there until the sound can't handle it anymore. The interrupts itself. But it's something I've always wanted to do, but I just never really had the ability to do it until quite recently, code-wise. So you can Sorry?
I have a lot of questions about this, as far as like how you managed to do the sequencer on it, and kind of integrate the sound engine to the sequencer engine on it. Are your sequencers pretty much the same across products, and then you adapt them to to each individual product? Like, how is that working for you?
I do a bit of copy pasting, but really, you have to, depending on what you're going to be doing, you have to kind of. There's so much adapting that tend to rewrite quite a lot of it. Sorry about the mess.
Don't feel that way at all. Well, you actually just built that space pretty recently too, because I remember you were building your space around the same time I was building mine. Yeah. And it was really an interesting looking shell that you started with.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a cave. It actually is a cave à vin, which it's underground. It's cut into the into stone. So the only approach I could do was to build a kind of cylinder thing and drywall that was such bad quality that I had to paste over all this foam. I still try not to slam doors just in case.
It's that troublesome.
Yeah. If you could try not to laugh that loud, because something moved. No, it's cool.
Yeah, I remember you sent me the framework picture of it, and it was just like this. You had this kind of, it was like lattice work going around it, and it was just that was pretty interesting. But I'm happy to see that it's finished, and hopefully you don't hurt yourself with fumes in there, as we were talking about ventilation.
Yeah, no, I've got a dedicated tube that I just kind of stick beside me when I'm. Yeah, I know.
Which So let's talk a little bit about sequencers, okay? I want to dive in on sequencers. So when you're doing your sequencers, I see that you have 16-step sequencers in there. Are they one-step resolution? Do you do divisions? Give me some information about that, and how you can, because you also have things like being able to record some parameters into those things. So I'm just curious about resolution and how these sorts of things are working for you.
From the top of my head, the Detonate it's 8 times the resolution of a step. So you can, you've got stutter effects, so you can kind of be playing and doing drilling stuff. So there's it's all a bit of a mix in my head, because I've also got Crazy 8, which each track has got a different rate. But Detonate is pretty linear. All the parts are playing at the same rate, but it is over sampling about 8. I think it's 8 sub steps, something like that.
Crazy 8 came first, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show this as well so that people can know what we're talking about.
I'm looking for one.
So here's Crazy 8.
Oh, that's it.
And yeah, Crazy 8. Like all of these things have that kind of like black brushed aluminum panel look, which I dig. I think for something like this, that stuff is classy looking.
Oh,
like
thanks.
it's just, it doesn't feel like cheap and weak like some other. Honestly, there's a few other larger, still boutique synth companies that their products, they're metal casing, but man, they feel like chintzy, like you could tap them and break them. You know what I mean? Like I can't stand that. But
it's brushed anodized metal, aluminium, but it's aluminum. Sorry, it's 1.5 millimeter thick, and yeah, they brush it and then they anodize it. It's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that look. It's just kind of classy. I have my friends Corey and Joe are both they're like fanatics about like black panels and black and gray, and that's because it looks slick and it looks like you're not a hot mess. And that's, and me, I'm like neon green everything because I'm a hot mess. I have like no aesthetic, like common sense. But no, so what would you say is your most complex sequencer that you've done to date?
Sorry, I'm asking the cat. No, I think it's definitely the Crazy 8. Yeah, because.
Oh, really?
Because each track has its own speed and its own step length, but you can also skip any other steps, so it can really go on a rampage. And you can also chain them individually.
How do you tell it to skip a step? I haven't seen this. Like, and I have to ask a lot of these kind of rudimentary questions on this one because I haven't seen Crazy 8 in action. So
now it's the time that you're going to find out I don't know my products at all. But yeah, there's a skip button you can hold, and it will allow you to roll the encoder to go back and forth on the steps and turn. It's just something you turn on and off for each step, like a slide on a 2B303 or something like that, I think.
Fair enough. So with these sequencers, have you played with things like swing and that sort of thing? Because it looks like it says 8 levels of swing, 2 swing modes.
Yes. Yep. There's there's the there's the swing that we all know and love, where it's every other step is delayed slightly. But then I created this one with a bit of a groove, so it's I'd have to open the code to tell you which steps are, but it's just got this weird swing that's a bit like a skip, a dance. Yeah.
Kind of walking it a bit.
That's the way I can describe it.
Yeah. So the swings, is that the different swing modes that you talk about on there? Like moving between like a standard, say, 16th note swing and a odd division swing?
Looks like I'm.
You better know your own products when I'm talking to you.
Whoa.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, we had some internet issues earlier, but yeah. So what I was asking is the 2 different swing modes. Is that the difference between the 16th note division swing or whatever it is, and these odd division swings?
It's just putting the swing at different steps. It's not a division change. It's the same. It's just delaying different, not the steps you'd expect. Sorry. I'd love to be able to tell you exactly which steps it is, but
yeah, fair enough. All right, so I want to move into. I'm gonna pull it up, of course. God, there's so many like cool products on here though, like because all of these things are like interesting desktop boxes that all do something that's very unique and specific at the same time.
Thanks.
And you also, so I should also say this. So you have the Crazy 8, and then you also have the Crazy 8 Beats. Before I dive into Mega FM, which is what I'm going to be getting into, talk to me about Crazy 8 Beats and what the difference is and what that's all about.
So the Crazy 8 Beats is kind of like the Crazy 8, but it's got beats on the end of the title.
Fair enough. End of story. You don't need to know anything else about this product, people. Just,
Yeah, I wanted something that was like beat oriented, and actually I always wanted to be able to make something with pads, but it's actually really expensive to make pads. So the reason for that coming later on was financial, to be honest. Because I had to get them molded, and then but now I've got carrier bags full of these pads everywhere. So Detonate was born. You might notice
sure.
It's saying pads. But yeah, Crazy 8 Beats is something you can put into your modular. It's rack mountable. And
this will do external MIDI tracks as well?
Yep.
Very nice. So you can use this as a sequencer for your other gear.
Yeah, but anything beat oriented, it doesn't have melodic stuff.
Yeah. Like basically like a trigger sequencer.
That's right, and you can trigger. I think it's got two MIDI outputs. Oh, 3. Oh, yeah, that's it. 1 in and 2 out. Yeah.
I love how you're like reading up on your own product as we go.
Yeah. Thanks for that. It's helpful. Yeah. Cool.
I'm trying to make this as easy as possible on you. Trust me, people. He does actually create these products himself. I'm pretty sure on that. Twisted Electrons didn't just hire like a hand model for this interview, right?
I hope not.
Okay, so let's get into the Mega FM, because this has been your passion project for quite a while now, and it's really freaking cool. It's got me super excited because, for one, I'm a video game nerd, and how many of us weren't growing up, in the 80s through the 2000s, so this basically is a synthesizer that's using the FM chip that was used to create the sound of the Sega Genesis, correct?
Yep.
Or Mega or Mega Drive if you're outside the US.
Mega Drive, yep.
Yes. So start. You got to tell me the whole story on this thing.
Well, I had one of those chips sitting on the desk for years, like from the start, and I've always fantasized about making one of these, and had the data sheet printed, and I'd read it a bit here and couldn't understand the thing. So it's just been kind of something in the back of my mind for a while, and it had to happen. So it's been in actual development for, I want to say, 2 years now, and it's got two of these chips, the YM2612. So
what was your thought on going with 2 chips instead of 1? Because I would assume that using 1 chip would have just been easier for you, and you could have called it a day and made it a smaller unit.
Yeah, but I did that with the AY3. There are 2 chips in there, and when you play, when you have hard panned chips playing the same stuff but with slight, variation, detune or something, it's just magical. It's super wide open, and I'm into playing chords, so having 2 chips offering 6 voices each is cool. It's 12 voice polyphonic. And why not, make it a double?
Fair enough. Cheers to that one. So here's what I'm going to say about. I want to dig into some of the functionality here. So first thing I want to bring up is the different playing modes, right? So I'm stopped here on the screen here. You got Poly 12, Wide 6, Dual Channel 3, and Unison. So tell us about each mode and what they represent.
Okay. So Poly 12 is, as you'd expect, like a polyphonic 12 voice. Each they're fired as they become available across the 2 chips. So if you're playing it in stereo, it's quite nice because they're scattered from left to right as you play. They alternate, so it'd be like a down. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's sorry, my feed isn't stereo because of internet reasons. The Wide 6 is really both chips playing at once, the same notes, but with the ability to slightly detune them. So that's where it comes wide.
All right, so.
And the dual, so the dual channel 3 is a special mode that you can activate on the chip, which enables you to detune the operators like freestyle. So traditionally operators are locked in frequency where there'll be a multiple of each other. So it's always harmonizing each other. Whereas in this detune mode, you can really go wild and do these dissonant sounds. It's cool for like sound effects or percussive effects. You can modulate the detune amounts with LFOs. So you go weird stuff.
How do you dictate which operators you're detuning and that sort of thing?
Well, on the control panel, each operator has a fader dedicated to each. All the parameters are there in front of you. So if you want to modulate the multiplier of operator 2, you just move the multiplier fader of operator 2, and then tell the LFO to modulate it with the chain button. So it's the same principle as the Therapsid. There's a chain button for each LFO. It's kind of like a link grab. So you move any fader, any knob, hit the chain button, and it's locked to that LFO.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And you can do that with any of them. So there's like 50 or something parameters that can be locked to not just one or up to 3 of the LFOs, any of the 3.
So the algorithms that you have, right? Are those set by the chip, or are those just like the ones that you figured are the best ones to use, or like how did that work out?
They're all set by the chip. It's an actual built into the chip.
Okay, and I'm going to share the screen again real quick. I keep bringing it up because, one, it's a cool interface, and two, I haven't actually laid hands on one of these yet. But so let me zoom in a bit. So if you look, you've got an algorithm knob, and then you can switch between all these different algorithms. And I guess we should kind of preface the whole thing, and probably should have said this to begin with. It's a 4-operator synth, 4-operator FM synth, and 12 voices total, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so you can basically switch between different operator algorithms, and you can play it out in different voice modes. You can sequence it different ways. Talk to me about built-in sequencing on this thing.
Yeah, there's an arpeggiator which has several modes, and there are 2 of these modes are sequencer 1 and sequencer 2, which you can program using the record button. So it's kind of I think it's like the SH101 or something, where you set the records on, and then you play a sequence of notes with your keyboard, and it'll memorize up to 16 of them, and you can go up and down your sequence with the up and down keys to skip some notes or fix some. So and then it'll play like an arpeggiator, kind of like traditional stuff. It will transpose to any key you hold. So it's a basic little step sequencer. The second mode is the first mode will advance automatically at the rate that you turn on your arpeggiator, but the second mode will advance every time you hit a key. So it's sort of, you can do weird rhythms and things like da 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 da. So manual advance. If that made any sense?
No, that makes sense. So you basically you got the step style sequencing of a SH101. You've got arpeggiation. Here's where I'm just gonna kind of tangent mode. Have you done things like sequence it from your other products and kind of tested it in that way? And
yeah.
Do you have any pairings of this with any of your other products that you think are like really complementary?
That's a good question. Well, you can trigger it with MIDI, obviously. So I played personally. I haven't really. I've just been too busy making them to experiment with that. But I do have a friend who plays Crazy 8. His whole rig is around the Crazy 8, and now he's got Crazy 8 and the Mega FM, and yeah, he's doing some cool stuff with that multi-channeling, and he uses it as his go-to bass synth.
Well, let me put it a little bit to pressure and just say, like, is he posting any of that to like Instagram so people can follow and check that stuff out? Like, where obviously you have some videos up on your site, but aside from that, where is the best place where people can kind of hear this stuff?
It's on the site. Would be it's my responsibility to post more. I mean, he's been tagging me on Instagram, but I need to kind of check out
when a builder is posting to their, like, is it's up to them to post as much media as possible.
Yeah,
my mind goes to, I'd rather you be building than posting, but sales orders are often like, you should probably be posting so that we can get more sales. So I understand the conundrum that kind of presents.
I just hate going on the social media. I have an Instagram account because I feel like I have to, but
Instagram's not as bad as like some of the others where you have to listen to people's political opinions and everything else.
Right.
Like, that's a whole nother plight,
And you said it quite well.
I'm going to ask more questions about the Mega FM in a second, but I want to kind of like just talk chips and weirdness with you. So the Mega FM chip, how did and it's a SY chip, but I don't remember the exact numbers. Sorry, like I have Curtis chips memorized, but not YM numbers. So the 2612. There's other YM chips that are really interesting, and so like the Saturn had a really powerful FM chip in it. I'm just bringing this up just to kind of talk shop with you a little bit, but have you looked into any of this stuff? And because from what I understand, some of that stuff is kind of hard to get a hold of and hard to program and that sort of thing. But like the Saturn was, if you remember back in the day, the Saturn was like, oh my God, this is going to be like, sound wise, it was supposed to like drop a bomb on everybody. Of course, the PlayStation came out and like kind of messed everything up for Sega at the time. But 2D wise, Saturn was kicking ass, and sound wise, it had some really cool stuff. So have you looked into that at all?
I had no idea, to be honest. This is the first time hearing about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. So the Saturn, man, I bet you I'm going to get this wrong and get lambasted on YouTube about this. But if I recall, it was like 32 voices, and it was like some absurd shit. And I know for a fact that the Dreamcast went even further, but the Saturn had a really, really powerful FM chip in it. So that's my personal request, is to look into that. But I'm pretty sure that the Saturn chips are like, there was something about it that's hard to deal with. And I know that the 2612, oh my God, I almost want to Google it right now. I'm pretty sure that there was a synthesizer that it was used in, really? But you weren't able to access everything in it. Like they were using these chips kind of across the board in like, not the cool Yamaha synths, but like like they had like consumer grade arrangers and that sort of thing. Yeah. And I think they used them in some of that stuff as well. So yeah, I'm kind of digging into the geek culture about it a bit.
No, I agree with Wagyu, who's saying the streaming audio. In my mind, it was nothing but streaming audio from CDs from there on. But I'll look.
Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't. Not at all. Right. No. Very so cool. the Saturn had a really powerful FM chip. But no, he might be talking about the actual game programmers, because there was a thing where like the game programmers were doing that stuff, and I would love, man, you know what? I'll have to get Mark Kilborn on here. I have a good friend of mine who's a very well-to-do game audio programmer, does like, Call of Duty and Forza and all that kind of stuff. But he could, I guarantee you he'd speak more intelligently on that. But no, so Saturn, definitely had some interesting capabilities, but it was the question as to what they were actually doing with it, like the programmers.
Yeah, well, yeah. Same for Mega Drive. Genesis, because they ended up just going to live presets, and that's why so many games sound the same. And this chip is completely underused.
I think the Mega Drive name lends itself better to the Mega FM thing than Genesis FM.
Well,
that wouldn't
ironic,
have sounded
isn't
as cool.
it? Phil Collins.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to get into a few other things about this. So, when you were creating these products, can you tell us a little bit about what is it about creating these products that are the biggest challenge for you to get them to the customer and to get them to the state to where you feel like, okay, I'm ready to ship? Because you can do pre-orders, you can do different methods of like getting the information out there, but a product like this is a financial investment that's kind of serious. So when you're doing this, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, obviously I need to get product awareness out there. I need to have the features be what I want them to be. But what are some of the things that for you are like, okay, this is the challenge?
Well, there's so many challenges, as you said. And what's the number one challenge? The challenge for me with the Mega FM has been the bloody Corona, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
It's just it stalled everything, getting parts in, sending parts out. Really, that was the thing, because the guys making these beautiful cases, they all had to go home, and the factory was shut down for 2 months, I think.
Where was that located at? Is that in China, or is that?
It's near Shenzhen. Yeah, Shenzhen.
Okay.
They weren't actually affected by it, but it's just for security measures.
Trying to prevent being affected by it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the workers were just stayed home to be safe, really.
Mm-hmm.
So when I opened the pre-orders, I was just praying that I'd be able to meet the deadline. Because at the time when I launched it, I was just being told that everything was stopping. So, but it's all panned out pretty well now. I've got all the parts I need, and I'm only a couple weeks behind the initial schedule for first units have been going out for last week, and hopefully they'll all be out within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
This one also has a VST, right? And I assume you use the same process for doing this.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that enables you to do?
It enables me to test the product before shipping it, because I can see the little faders move around on the screen.
But no, like to the end user.
Yeah, it just helps you. I know it helps you with automation, like in your door, really. Because I don't know about.
Is every parameter like CCable? Are you able to send?
Yeah.
So are they all CC, or can you also send it NRPN if you want to be more high res? And honestly, like, does that matter with this type of chip? Like, I don't know what the resolution of sweeping, a ratio on this type of chip is.
No, the
is
average
that something where you need higher res or no?
No, the average resolution of these parameters is like 4-bit. So,
okay.
Yeah, you got plenty with the 7-bit MIDI, and there's CC on every parameter. And really, the editor is just to get an immediate, feel for it.
And for people who want to like track in a DAW and like save a project and use that kind of thing, like that's actually one thing that I was just talking to my buddies about the other day. Is like I kind of really regret that I would do exactly that too much and not just bounce to audio. So
I do try to, not draw too much attention to integrating it into the DAW, because you're missing the point, really, when you're modulating faders with drawing, curves, vertices. But
we're not going to get that fancy. We're just going to say, putting in your automation, bro.
Yeah. Draw a line. That goes up and down.
All right, so Mega FM, currently, what's the situation with that? If somebody wants to buy one right now, what's the situation with that?
if you buy it now, I'd expect to ship it to you in 3 weeks.
And
I'm
that's
still catching up with the backlog.
That's $474 with some weird European currency. What is that in US dollars? Hold on, I'm going to that to check it out.
What's that in play money?
In Monopoly cash, how many of these can I buy? Okay.
So 474 euros is 7,600,000. No, it's
Pounds?
512. Yeah, right. Post Brexit.
That value's dropping right out. So
yeah,
that's all right. The US dollar will drop very soon too. So yeah, that's something that. So if you buy one now, dealing with the whole COVID thing, what are we talking about as far as like? Do you have any expected delivery times and all that?
I'm using DHL, and they seem to be really efficient. I think it's like 3 or 4 days. So.
So you have stock now?
No, 3 weeks. I'd expect to have the stock 3 weeks from now.
That's all right, so 3 weeks plus shipping, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. Yeah. Okay. So, getting into a little bit, like I'm trying to steal you for as much time as I have, because like you have so many products that I'm looking at that I'm like, oh my god, like I kind of want to like dive more into this. I want to dive more into that. Happy NES, right? Let's talk about that, because I'm an NES freak, because when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to have one. So like I had a Commodore 64, and my parents were like, you have that, be happy that you have that. And I was like, okay, but like Randy has an NES, so.
Oh, Randy. Oh.
Randy was cool. He let me play. It was cool. It was cool. But he could do things in Super Mario that I was like, oh, how are you doing? How are you bouncing that one block so fast? Yeah. So like I have issues. All right, emotional charred in issues about the NES. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about this thing? I'll share the screen so that people can see it, and just tell us what this thing is and why it's cool.
I don't think it's cool at all.
Tell us why it's nerdy. Tell us why this should be used to create some nerdcore.
Well, well, I don't like to use the word emulation, because it's not at all an emulation, but it's a sound that I tried to get as close as I could to the NES. Like it's got the same 4-bit triangle bass, with the steps. It really does sound like the NES, and it's a little handheld guy that you can. It's got 4 tracks, so you can really create NES stuff that's in the same. It's the same featurelessness and the same featurefulness, in that it doesn't go beyond. I'm not trying to, I could add more features than the NES has, but it's, well, you
already sort of did, didn't you? Like with the ratcheting?
Yeah, well, yeah, stuff like that. But
for the most part, you're trying to stay true to like a vintage kind of chiptune vibe of like, hey, this is how we did soundtracks on NES.
That's right. Yeah, the one bass, the 2 squares, with the same range of pulse width modulation, and then I cheated a little bit with the 4th track, which is for drums, because there's a little bit of a triangle in there to boost the kick, which you would normally borrow from the bass. But no, I thought. But
you kind of doubled it up.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Which, listen, if you don't like more bass, there's something wrong with you, right? No. So this is one of those products though that it's like this little tiny thing that you can on standalone, like just kind of holding it in your hands, jam out with this thing, right? Very much of like a pocket operator and what's the other thing that the Volcas and that sort of thing. Volcas even less so, because they're not quite as portable as this. But how are you powering this thing?
Yeah, you can stick a couple of AAA batteries under it.
It does. It can hold AAAs on it.
Yeah, but it can also plug to USB and draw power from that.
Oh, look at that! You have a pocket operator right there in the picture. Yeah, and one up there too.
Yeah, okay. One of the super booths, I took it to the Teenage Engineering super booth, and they loved it. And
yeah, that's cool.
We had dinner together with the team, so I needed to ask them how they felt about it, But they said, "Oh yeah, cool, man." So really cool team.
Nah, they're really nice guys. I actually man, I had this video that I wish I could post, but it got garbled and messed up, and there's no audio to it. But I this is back before oh god, this is back when they were first debuting the OP1, and I had them dancing like it was so weird. Like they had these weird sensors, and like we clipped them to their shoes, and I was like, okay, well, let's do a dance. We did like this weird MIDI dance. It was great. But no, so this thing, these things all look like they could fit pretty much in a shirt pocket almost. I mean, they're pretty small.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like this there that you can hold in your hand and kind of show us? I'm putting you on the spot. I don't care. None of this is rehearsed. Man, where are your products? I'm trying to make you look as bad as possible right now. He's like, this is an order that's supposed to ship out. Now it's B stock.
No, this one is shipping to a friend. Well, he was my friend.
Wagyu checked the YMF 292 tech specs, which I think is the not Dreamcast, Saturn FM chip specs. Right. And he says 32 voice 1 op FM or 1 voice 32 FM. So I was right at 32 voices. It's just there was only one operator.
Right.
It was freely assignable, is the thing. So like there was like this crazy matrix that you could do where you could freely assign however many operators to however many voices you wanted. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty crazy chip though, but yeah.
Cool, well done. No, that sounds cool.
Well, I just like being right is all.
Yeah.
So hold on, do you have one? Can you show it? Okay, so yeah. It's like a little bit bigger than shirt pocket, right? I'm talking about for the uber nerds who have pocket protectors, like you know. Oh, well, let me see the back because I don't think there's any pictures on the side of the back. Okay, so hold on. Let me do this. There we go.
Ooh, it's got this little panel that screws on, and then here are your battery clips.
Yeah, man, and that's less than most Eurorack modules, and you can kind of like just grab that thing and dick around and have a good time with it, you know?
This is a clouds module for your reference.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
If you turn it sideways, it's darn near 3U. Is it 3U or is it slightly bigger? It looks slightly bigger, right? Like you're not going to be able to mount that into a rack if you were to be like some uber nerd, like trying to...
It's not far off.
You might be able to shave it down. Who knows? I don't know if you would hit a trace or not if you shaved it down. Listen, I'm bringing up the questions that like the people who are absurd about this kind of stuff will be wondering. Okay.
It's been brought up before. Yeah. You're not that original.
Wow, thank you. You just made me feel so great about myself. Oh my goodness. So that's the hold on, what is it called again? The happiness. Right.
Yeah, the one in particular was the microacidate, but yeah, they're both the same size.
So hold on. When you're just chilling, do you refer to it as NES or do you refer to it as a NES? Because I know a lot of people that refer to it as a NES, and they're all wrong. I
always thought of it as the NES.
Okay, all right, NES, so we're okay. I don't have to.
But growing up in France, we always say NES. Dans la NES.
Well, yeah, I guess it makes sense if you're French because like they're all about just making things sound sexy. So
NES would be NES. That wouldn't have been so sexy.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. That sounds like throwing up.
NES.
No. It sounds like you just swallowed something you really shouldn't have. Yeah.
Like happiness.
No, I dig that. So let me cross over here for a second. I'm on the other site. So there's the Acid 8 MK2, right? AY3 Eurorack module. Talk to me a little bit about that, and I'll pull it up while we're talking.
So yeah, it's a module that uses all three voices. Yeah, 3 voices of the AY3 chip. So it's at the top section. You can see the three little jacks is the melodic bit. So the voices 1 and 2 come out as square waves. You can detune them. You can kind of arpeggiate between the two. And the lower section is a noise generator. So it's tuned noise. And so it's got the trigger and pitch.
So this one, you have this and the, what is it, the Octopus?
So the Octopus is just a switch, a sequenceable switch. So you got 8 inputs, 1 output, and you use the matrix to select which output's going to which input's going to the output.
Hold on, I'll pull that up so that people can see it. Where are we at? There's like, it's a little bit irritating because you have so many cool products that, like, honestly, I feel like a lot of people just don't know about. And I don't mean that to slight you as far as like marketing or anything, but like a lot of this stuff is like just cool stuff that I feel like people are just unaware of. Which was the whole point of doing this show, is so that people could kind of be like, oh wow, like I didn't even know about that. Like I need to check that out. But you've been making products for a while now, and it's, you know, they're all really interesting things. Like none of this stuff is what I would just be like, oh, okay, yeah. This is a rehash of XYZ module or circuit. Like these are all interesting new things.
Well, I try to make things that I'm passionate about, and if not, I tend to get really lazy and lose interest of all there's so many things I've started and just haven't gone anywhere because it was too, yeah.
The oh, hold on, I pulled something up that's wrong. What did I pull up? Let me close that. Okay. So, where am I at? I have like 15,000 windows open. So, all right. So the Octopus module, you said it's a switch. It's basically like a matrix that you can kind of use to set up your modulations, right?
Yep, modulations or sound. It's better with CVs. So if you have like send 8 LFOs into there of different shapes, and then you can just use this to switch which one comes out.
Can you say presets?
No.
Well, that's your mark 2 right there. I want to be able to save presets for this for performance.
Okay.
No. I'm forcing it. I'm forcing the issue because this is actually really cool. I'm looking at how you can combine modulation sources, and so you can combine multiple things and then output them out of one.
Yep. Or do the opposite. You can have one and route it to any of the out. It's bidirectional.
Very nice. So
8 to 1 or 1 to 8.
This is the kind of thing where like I don't want to like play the video on here because then people are like getting a kind of weak version of what it is. Like that kind of thing, I highly recommend people go to the site. It's just twistedelectrons.com, and I think you can type in twistedelectrons.com and get there, but there's supposed to be a hyphen in between.
Oh yeah.
They're supposed to, but I think you can get there either way, can't you?
Yeah, I bought both domain names.
Well, that was smart because when I typed it, I did it without a hyphen.
I think it was an extra $2 to get the other one.
Listen, you're just running yourself into the ground now. What is Rainplay?
So Rainplay is a thing I'm developing with my dad. It's a bar. I don't have one of them. It's upstairs. It's a bar of LEDs that you put over your piano, and it's kind of like if you're familiar with Guitar Hero, where the LEDs fall down. You send it MIDI, like something you want to play, and the LEDs will come down like rain droplets, and they'll fall down onto your keys.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like some of the video games and stuff that they have out there for that.
Yeah. So it's cueing you to play, but on a real piano.
That's cool.
So we've been having a lot of fun with that for learning things like Zelda, little video games.
Now, is he a player, or is he somebody who's interested in learning, or like what's the deal with there?
No, he just got a good deal on a piano. So
okay.
So it was kind of.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah, there you go.
That's crazy.
And he was a really good person to try it on because, he hasn't didn't take any piano lessons, but he was able to play Debussy and stuff really slowly. But it's just really, really fun. And it's something you can do with friends too, like four hands, set up something really complicated and play it really, really slowly, but play it right,
That's dope.
I have not seen anything like that before. That's really cool. And you could put that on any acoustic piano. And really, you could put it on a MIDI piano, too.
Providing it's got the full-size keys, yeah.
Okay.
Well, for spacing, you mean?
Yeah, otherwise...
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which that should work on most, non-slim key, non-like Korg / whatever. Like the mini key or slim key is out, but... Which makes sense, but yeah, I mean, a proper MIDI keyboard is very easy to reach for most people.
Yeah, it works on any kind of electric piano, yeah.
That's really neat. I have not seen anything like that before.
It's fun.
Huh. Yeah, that just interests me because I'm a terrible piano player, so there's that. And I'm always trying to learn new scales, so like, what does that interface with as far as software-wise?
Any software, it comes up as a MIDI device, MIDI destination. So it's USB MIDI. So you just plug it into your computer, and then anything that can play a MIDI file through a MIDI device will be fine.
Oh, so it's just taking standard MIDI files and then playing that through LEDs. Yeah,
basically. Not the actual files. It's more of the messages. So you need to use a sequencer of some kind to play it. But there are loads out there. Synthesizer is a fun one because that's already quite playful. It's for teaching kids to play piano, but it has a MIDI output option, so you just connect your plate, put it on your piano, launch your Synthesizer, open your favorite songs, and
well, that's cool because that's basically what it is like you already have like that waterfall effect on Synthesizer, and then you can look down and it's there on your fingertips as well.
Yeah, and there's a little knob on the end to adjust the speed of the droplets and the brightness, so you can really put it slow and have them coming down. There's 8 positions.
Can you get it to match up fairly well with the software as far as like it hits bottom right when you need to be hitting the note?
It takes a little bit of fiddling around to do, but yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's pretty cool because again, like I said, I'm terrible at playing piano and I'm always trying to learn. So like any learning tools I'm always interested in, and that stuff is great. So yeah, very cool. All right, well listen, we'll close it out, and I want to say, my God, like go to twistedelectrons.com, check out the site. There's what is it, like 12 different items at least, 12 more than that, 16 or so different products that you can check out on there. All of them are interesting in their own way. You've got things that can fit in your pocket. You've got desktop units. You've got drum programmers. What's Therapsid? And I'm not trying to keep you too long because I know you got a good dinner coming. But
Therapsid is like a digital virtual analog version of the Therapsid because the SID is a chip, as you probably know, is going out of, like the Therapsid is going into extinction. So it was just an attempt at bringing a similar sound into a platform that won't extinct. But
and what chip are you using in that?
It's all DSP, so it's all
okay.
It's all internal to kind of like the Teen Z platform. It's
16-bit DAC. Okay, yeah. 96 millihertz, 32-bit processor. Okay. I'm reading your own stuff right now, so.
Yeah.
I figure you'd be doing the same, so I'm just helping you out.
I didn't write that one down. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the actual sound of it, like in your just your opinion on it. How do you feel like it compares to the Therapsid?
I'm really happy with how it compares to it, and people have been saying it sounds really nice and grungy because I'm putting bit crushers all over it. But the advantage of using the 32-bit is that you have plenty of headroom. So, because 8-bit oscillators, they tend to get crushy and not dynamic. But using the 8-bit crush stuff in a 32-bit, 16-bit quality, sorry. Why am I saying 32? Because the processor is 32. So the filter is pretty high quality, and it's only the oscillators that are getting crushed and dirty. So yeah. What else? There's also I did quite a bit of cut-off modulation, which sounds a bit like the fluttery sound you get on the older SID chips.
I wanted to bring that up to you. So that was one of the main things about the SID chip that I feel like is okay. So it's a quirk. It's a flaw. It is what it is, right? Like it's part of that sound. But like the old SID chips, like when you would hold down a note, it would sound like it's jumping control voltage, like it's like jumping voltages around, like on one note. And at first I thought like, oh, I did something wrong, but no, that's like actually how it sounds. Like that's that chip.
What, like the pitch was jumping around?
Yeah, like it has kind of there's a slight warble to that thing. That's an instability to it is what I would call it.
And the filter I love. I mean, especially the later one is more popular because it's got more resonance. It's a bit stronger sounding, but the older one to me just sounds insane. It's got this real.
It's unpredictable.
Yeah, and it's analog. It's completely analog, and it was built with on a tight budget, tight time. I think it's just terribly.
The guy who built it actually lives not that far from me, and I've been trying to get him. Like one of these days, he's going to be on a SynthSummitShow. But he is I don't want to say recluse, but like he just doesn't want fame. Like he doesn't want that. You know what I mean? So like I have to approach it very carefully. But yeah, man, I'm like Bob Yanis. I'm like
Yanis. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, dude. He lives down the street. Like, I need to make that happen.
If you can get the schematic for the filter from him, that would be cool.
Apparently, that's from what I've heard. That's been kind of, I don't know if it's been lost or what, but I know that it's been changed multiple times too.
Yeah, that would make sense. The variations definitely sound different from one to another.
Yeah. It like the SID chip. I don't know. It just has a very distinct sound to me because I grew up on it. Like I grew up playing, what was it? Impossible Mission and these old school Commodore games where it was like, you know, we used to go to these computer fairs where it was just like, you know, a huge hall of a bunch of computer geeks back in the 80s, and you would get like these discs that had like X amount of games on them, and they were all like copied and freeware and shareware and all that kind of thing back in the day. And man, I remember loading that. Like I literally learned how to read on a VIC-20. Like that's what taught me my alphabet was Alphabet Zoo on VIC-20. So cool. For me, like the sound is embedded in my life. You know what I mean? Like it's part of growing up. So I can pick apart, like, okay, well, like, that's a real SID. That's something else. You know, that's something that I'm not familiar with. And honestly, even later model SIDs sound different to me. Like, they don't sound to me like a real SID. Like, I'm like, oh, that's a Commodore? Like, no, that's not a Commodore. Like, because if you would play, like, I want to say it was called Beachhead or Eagle's Nest. Eagle's Nest was like, man, that game was so cool. I can go for ages about old school video games, but yeah, like I look at these synths that you've made using like old school video game chips and old school video game styles, and they're just, man, they're really cool. So I appreciate it, and I hope people will check out twistedelectrons.com because I personally feel like it's like under acknowledged. And there is a fancy version of the Happy NES, so I want to show that. I'll show that because like I'm showing like the pocket stuff because I'm like a cheapskate kind of guy, but this is like the more fancy version. Like if you actually have some disposable cash and you want to have something cool in your studio,
that thing's kind of cool looking. So anything else you want to add before we end the show? And
no, well, this is my first time doing this, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
I'm super happy to have you on. And I've been thinking about doing this episode for a while. Yeah, like I said, SynthSummitShow I don't do as frequently or as often as a lot of the other shows, but I do it when it's something that I think is going to be interesting, and there's something that I feel like needs to be like shown to people and that sort of thing. So that's exactly what this is, because it doesn't get more like, hey, this guy's doing this by himself and it's really cool. So yeah,
I'm humbled. I love doing it, and to know that people love it makes it even more lovable doing it. But yeah,
I dig it, man. So yeah, twistedelectrons.com, and Mega FM is actually shipping now. You got 3 weeks. Like if you place an order, it's 3 weeks and then your shipping date, right?
Yep, that's what it's looking like.
Do you tend to notify after the unit is like built and ready to go? Like, do you what's your notification like?
Yeah, there's a tracking number that's sent when it goes into the system. If I feel like things are getting behind schedule, I send emails out to let people know. But
very cool. I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, my thought process is hopefully I'll be able to show some more about this stuff too very soon. Like Detonate is something that because you can send can you send you send audio into that, right? Audio comes out and then you can also affect it, right?
You can sorry, not live audio, but you can load it with samples from the computer.
Yeah. So you can glitch stuff out and kind of use the sequencer and get kind of crazy with it, right?
Yeah. If you like, at some point I could come back and do some like a hands-on demo. I mean, I had a couple things set up, but time's not permitting it this time.
Yeah. It's it's that whole dinner COVID situation where luckily certain people are getting amazing dinners each night.
You'd like it. We're getting Indian chicken butter creamy chicken.
I don't know what I'm getting tonight, but my wife has been kicking ass lately. Like she's been cooking up some amazing dinners during this whole COVID thing. So I feel like I'm going through a plight where it's like I can't complain about anything. I'm just like, yeah, this is all good.
No, I feel guilty about that too. I mean, it's
listen, and not to belittle the hardships of people, because I've actually honestly lost some good friends due to this, but so it's luckily people who make amazing gear keep us happy. I will say that in all honesty, so you've recently built your studio, I've built mine. We're now sitting in them, and so like my wife and my kids are going stir crazy, and I'm like, yo, like let me just stay home. Like gear. Let me just stay home and noodle, So
it's what I would choose to do, yeah.
Hey, let me just bring up one last thing before we end the show. And that's about it's getting back to the sequencer, but the reason why I keep harping on the sequencer is because a lot of these sorts of sounds and these sorts of interesting techniques that you've got going on with desktop boxes, the only way to really get into that stuff previously is like trackers, So like LSDJ and that sort of thing. And I see it being brought up in the chat as well. One of the things about this that gets me excited is the fact that, okay, yes, I can use your sequencer, but if I'm not interested in your sequencer, I can use any MIDI sequencer to really rock these things without trouble. I've had a MIDI NES. I don't know if you've ever seen those things. It's a cart with a MIDI cable attached to it, a DIN MIDI cable. That thing did not work well. I don't care what anybody says. That thing was not great. So when I see stuff like this, I get excited because I'm like, I'm expecting it to work well without latency issues and, to just do what I want it to do.
No, you should be fine. Yep.
I'm forcing you to say more.
I do test stuff at 900 BPM with some crazy stuff to see how it can
You
handle
say
it.
900?
Yeah. Well, just a sequence going round and round and round as you have to. But
Usually
yeah.
like 300 would be the max for testing. Like, I'm usually like, okay, 298, okay. And that's like, I got a good buddy of mine that works over at Ableton, Mads Lindgren. If you're watching now, I'm talking about you. But yeah, he loves to make music at like 298 beats per minute. I'm just like, what is wrong with you? It's dope stuff, but my God. So, all right, look, we'll end the show, but thank you so much for coming on. I highly recommend everybody check out Mega FM. And if you like chiptune sounds, if you like strange 8-bit sounds, he's got so many different products on his page that it'll kind of like blow your mind. Like from Crazy 8 to Therapsid to the Happiness to the Mega FM to the Acid 8, Detonate. Like, there's a bunch of products on here that you should be aware of. So go check that stuff out and be safe. Hey, listen, wear a mask in public. Wash your damn hands. This is not that complicated, people. Just do it.
I was amazed at the number of people that aren't doing it. And in fact, now everybody is. So do it.
Yeah. And if I see you complaining about wearing a mask and equating it to some political thing or whatever, like, shut up. Just do it. Just do it. It doesn't hurt you. Just do it.
If not for you, for everyone else.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right.